And welcome back. I am Mike out of my ear. Hey guys, Mike. There we go. That is our lovely producer and social media directors back there. They were in my ear, sorry. But anyway, we've got a new Supreme Court ruling, it looks like, last night. They've ruled against Texas redistricting that had been shut down. 5-4 vote that, what does it say? This is according to Politico. Sharply divided Supreme Court has blocked a lower court ruling that a congressional district map Texas adopted in 2013 violates the Constitution and is the product of intentional racial discrimination. The High Court announced, along partisan lines, to block a 3-judges panel that Texas needed to redraw the maps or face having them redrawn by the court. And the reason that's important is we're going to see a lot of this stuff because that's what President Obama has declared as his mission, if you will, for his post-presidency. He and his sidekick Eric Holder, former Attorney General, have both said that they want to look into redistricting, specifically gerrymandering. And to those unfamiliar with it, gerrymandering is essentially the right of state legislatures to draw congressional districts however they want. And especially here in the South, we are very familiar with it because those of us that are not Democrats have lived with Democrat gerrymandering for multiple generations, over 100 years. If you look at here in North Georgia, we're probably the most Republican area in the entire country for multiple reasons that go back to the Civil War and there not being slaves here and opposition to the war and it goes on and on and on that led this area to be Republican long after. Yet we weren't really represented in Congress. So gerrymandering is nothing new, but now that it goes against Democrats, now that the Republicans are involved or in charge in so many places, they're now against it, which brings us to 2018. And we're hearing a lot about Donald Trump's polling numbers and how America doesn't like him, and the fake news media really wants you to think that people are dissatisfied, and they'll show you the 35% number and historically low approval ratings for any president ever. Even though I would assume Lincoln's probably would have been lower considering half the country was at war with him, but that's for another day. So we mentioned the Trump coalition earlier, and especially as it regards to this polling numbers, the thing they're not telling you is that among congressional districts that actually voted for Trump, his approval rating is fine. It's above 50. Where we're seeing the biggest drop in approval is in these blue areas: California, the New England, Northeast, Pacific Northwest, and then your urban areas where his approval rating is extremely low, and that kind of dilutes the overall approval. And then also in these super conservative areas where you have Tea Party types, strict constitutionalist types, his approval ratings have gone down because he's not doing enough in their eyes. So numbers can be deceiving, especially as we enter 2018. And the idea that this notion that there is automatically going to be a wave of Democrats elected, and that tradition and history tells us that any president is going to lose Congress or lose big in their first midterms. And although that is very, very, very much true, we saw it 2010, 2014, and throughout history, quite frankly, it always happens. Except in 2002, when the post 9/11 America, we saw a lot of Democrats in the South get voted out because frankly, that was when really everything kind of really started turning hard Republican as far as congressional leadership and state houses were concerned down this way. But that's widely regarded as an anomaly. And I'm not so convinced that the same thing's not going to happen, that we're going to see an 0-2 situation, just like what happened in the South, but we're going to see it creeping up into the Rust Belt, where all these Democrat congressional leaders are going to get booted out because of the Trump wave. And, you know, when you think about how the makeup of Congress and Democrats especially, they've almost been relegated to a regional party, the coastal areas and the big cities. And as much wishful thinking as there is from the media and from Democrats that there will be a Democrat wave, they seem to be forgetting that most logical voters aren't going to suddenly just turn around and vote for a Democrat just because they don't like the Republican congressman. What they're going to do is a lot like what we saw in 2010 after Obamacare. They're going to vote for alternative Republicans. They're going to vote for Trump style, Tea Party style, if you will, because the argument can be made that that's one and the same anyway. They're going to vote for the alternative. They're not going to turn around and just vote for a Democrat. And I make the argument that the Trump coalition isn't worried about the Democrats. Not at all. They want to use their advantages to cleanse the Republican delegation, especially in the House. And I think we have that graphic from yesterday of the House makeup. There's a 46-seat majority right now in the House of Representatives. And that's a huge majority. I mean, that's it right there. But there's the 48 members of the Tuesday group, which Charlie Dent led, and he's now retiring. You can see it's highlighted there that there are 48 members of that group, which essentially cancels out that 46-seat majority. It prevents the agenda, and I really feel for Paul Ryan. He takes a lot of heat. But as Trey Gowdy said, when they go to their conference meetings, you have the Libertarians over here, you have the Tuesday group over here, you have the, where Hillary Clinton did well, and then you have the ultra conservatives, and you have the Chamber of Commerce Republicans who are all about big business, and it's like herding cats because you have coalitions within the coalition, which is a double-edged sword because it's a good thing that you have control, but at the same time, it breeds division within. But it's almost as if Trump and Bannon are banking on that, because they constantly bait the media, right? Steve Bannon's famous for calling them the opposition party, for saying that they're the ones that have ruined our discourse. But and the media, and remember, the media takes the bait every time. I mean, just look at Jim Acosta and CNN, and they love nothing more than to challenge Trump, and Morning Joe, and how just vitriolic Joe and Mika were. But while all this is happening, the Democrats are on the sidelines. They're irrelevant. Trump has made it Trump versus the media rather than Trump versus the Democrats. And the most coverage that Democrats can get, is when Hillary makes another excuse, or President Obama makes a Facebook post, or when someone like Luis Gutierrez insults a 4-star, gold star General Kelly, who is of course the chief of staff. And over again, they just prove themselves to be the party of fake outrage. And I'm going to show an example. Do we have the video of Schumer? This was when the travel ban was announced, and it's when Trump gave him the nickname Crying Chuck. So go ahead.
With the families of immigrants, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized the president's executive order and announced he's planning to introduce legislation to get it overturned.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American. And I, as your senator from New York, will claw, scrap, and fight with every fiber of my being until these orders are overturned.
Already.
All right. So that is someone who obviously does not like President Trump. And we've seen it with Nancy Pelosi, who just ranted on and on and on. We had a clip of that, but I mean, I can't even play it. It's awful. And then we see them on the couch with President Trump striking a deal. Now, do those look like people who are really that outraged and really want to resist Trump that bad? See, the American people don't have the short memories that the media wants them to have. They can put in their head, oh, well, Schumer and Pelosi must not have really meant what they said months ago when they were crying or saying that this is the worst time to be alive, or that he must resign, or even that we're looking for anything we can to impeach the man. Do those look like people that think he's a white supremacist? I mean, if he were really a white supremacist, or if he were really Hitler, would they have taken that meeting? And also, when it comes to Luis Gutierrez, I think we have a picture of him too. He was all about criticizing then candidate Trump about the Khan family and the Gold Star parents. And keep in mind, Trump's alleged insult was wondering aloud whether Mrs. Khan was allowed to speak publicly because of her religion. And I think we have a photo of them too. And his other, yeah, that's right. Trump's other insult was when Khizr Khan said that President Trump hadn't made any sacrifices. President Trump responded by saying, well, yes, I have made sacrifices. Wrong answer. Luis Gutierrez included, called for Trump to, essentially drop out of the race. And for Gutierrez to then turn around and say General Kelly is a disgrace to the uniform, I mean, that's about the biggest insult you can make to someone, especially someone that wears the uniform. And I don't know, it's just, and by the way, he doubled down on that today by saying that, or it might have been last night, by saying that he's still a disgrace and that he's mean. And it's building up to the fact that voters see this. I mean, it's a big part why Donald Trump won in the first place. The way the media played the hot and cold game, and the way Democrats played the hot and cold game, where, if I do it, it's bad, but if a Democrat does it, no big deal. And just like how the Bernie Sanders supporter, who had 2 Facebook accounts, by the way, went out, lived in Alexandria, Virginia, scouted the baseball team, and we're not talking about a baseball scout, we're talking about a scout that wanted to see every movement so he could shoot them. And luckily he wasn't a very good shot, and luckily Representative Scalise had a security detail of Capitol Police and that were able to shoot the guy and kill him. But that gets forgotten within 48 hours. So what I'm getting at, and we'll get to part 2 of this monologue in the second hour, but Americans, especially voting, the ones that vote, aren't in the bubble they were 6 to 8 years ago. Be it because of social media or I think that's in large part what it is, or just be because of events that have taken place, rioting, that kind of thing, or just the economy in general, people's lives not getting better. But people notice this stuff now. They don't live in that 24-hour news cycle where the media is allowed to build a narrative and say, you know, like if you like think of Dallas when the guy was shot, to where the media can say, oh, well, it's just the latest in a long string of events like Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and Freddie Gray, and they're able to say it as if it was some major transgression, when in reality, every one of those cases was proved to be a false narrative. Every one of those cops were proved innocent. George Zimmerman wasn't a cop. He thought he was, but that idiot's, you know, another story for another day. He brought all that on himself. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to replay the interview with Justin Simmons. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, I'm going to finish up this point, because I think the Simmons interview can kind of illustrate what I mean by this, and then kind of tee up the second hour. So I'm Richie Stone. I'm in for BKP this morning. We appreciate you joining us. Remember, when we come back, it will be the interview. I'll see you guys back at 9.